Today we will be studying about coordination in animals. First of all, we will define what is coordination system. A coordination system works together to process information received from the stimuli and to produce appropriate responses. Like whenever there is a change occurs in the environment, it is received by receptors in your bodies, and they send those stimuli or those responses to the central nervous system, where they are coordinated and a response is generated against them. So different systems are different cells and tissues, they work together to correct that mechanism and to correct that change which occurs in the environment, or you may say to respond towards that change which occurs in the environment. We human beings have two types of coordination systems. One is the nervous system and the other one is the endocrine system. Today we will be learning about the nervous system. We have two types of nervous system in our body. One is the central nervous system and the other one is the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system function is to integration and command center. Like they integrate on the messages which they receive from the peripheral nervous system, or the PNS. And the PNS, it consists of the nerves which spread in all parts of the body. As you can see in the picture, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The brain and the nervous system. The function of the central nervous system is to coordination and regulation of all body activities. Like your brain, it controls all the functions and all the activities of your body. Number second is it responds and adopts changes that occurs both inside and outside of the body, for example the pain and temperature, etc. The basic functions of the nervous system. Here we have again the two types of nervous system, the peripheral nervous system and the central nervous system. So the function of the peripheral nervous system is to receive the impulses or receive the stimuli from the environment. The changes which occurs inside the environment are received by the peripheral nervous system and they then send them to the central nervous system, where integration on those responses occurs and then they give them back to the peripheral nervous system, which carry them to the effector areas. The effector areas may be a muscles or a gland. The action of the body. We have two types of actions in the body. One which are controlled by the brain, which are called as voluntary actions, and the other which in which brain is not involved, like thinking is not involved in those actions. So involuntary actions are those in which you are not able to think on those stimuli. Like if you think on those stimuli, there is harm to your body, or they are harmful to your body if you delay time. So voluntary actions, it involves the skeletal muscles, for example raising your hand to answer a question. And involuntary actions are the sudden actions or the automatic actions which involve skeletal muscles, like for example in a knee jerk or when you touch a hot object. And it also involves the smooth muscles and the cardiac muscles or the glands, for example in the normal blood pressure. This is the voluntary action. For example, you want to drink water, you go to the kitchen or you go to the water container and fill the glass up and then drink it, because you think of drinking water. And in this movement or in this action, you move towards from one place to another to drink water. In this case, your skeletal muscles help your body to move and to raise the glass up to your mouth and drink the water. Involuntary actions, they are not dependent upon your will, like you don't want to perform them, but they act on themselves. Like for example yawning is not in your control. Reflex action, sneezing, Like if you want to sneeze, you are not able to control your sneezing, but you did. Why? Because it is a reflex action. So a reflex action is also an involuntary action. It is nearly instantaneous, very quick movement in response to a stimuli. It is an automatic action. For example, you sneeze when dust particles or some other particles enters into your nose. So the reflex actions are the result of messages sent to and by the spinal cord. What is a reflex arc? A reflex arc is when your body, or for example any sense organ of your body, if in this case for example your skin, if a pin is pinched into your skin, that response or that stimuli is sensed by the sensory neuron, which transmit the impulses of that pain which is received by the skin into your spinal cord. Inside the spinal cord you have the relay neuron or intermediate neuron, which receive that impulse from the sensory neuron, and then this relay neuron gives that message after integration to the motor neuron, and motor neuron carry that impulse towards the effector area. In this case, for example, the effector area is your skin, and you pull your hand. Second example of the reflex arc is, for example, when you touch a hot object. So then the temperature receptors in your skin, they receive the message through the sensory neuron, gives them to the central nervous system like the spinal cord, and there are relay neuron found in your spinal cord which receive the message and gives them directly back to the motor neuron, which gives the message to the muscles, and you retract your hand from that hot object. Here is another demonstration of the reflex arc. Reflex arc work as, like for example, the receptor area, the skin, which receives the impulse from the stimuli via the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron gives this message to the interneuron. Interneuron integrates on them and gives them back to the motor neuron, which give the message back to the effector area. The nerves, which spreads in all your body. Nerves form a network of pathways for conducting information throughout the body. They transfer messages to and from the brain so that it can function efficiently. There are three kinds of nerves. First is the sensory, motor, and mixed. Neurons and nerve impulse. This is a neuron. For example, it contains of three parts: the dendrites, the cell body, the axon, and the axon terminal. So impulses are collected with the help of the dendrites in the cell body. It gives the impulses to the cell body, and the cell body then gives the impulses to the axon, which is a long tail-like shape or structure, and then from the axon it goes to the axon terminals. Here are the three types of neurons: motor neuron, sensory neuron, and intermediate neuron. Remember the shapes of these cells. What is a synapse? A synapse is a junction between two neurons across which electrical signals pass. The human body contains up to 500 trillion synapses. So there are two neurons found in a synapse. One is the presynaptic neuron, from where the impulse is coming, and the other one is the postsynaptic cell or neuron, which receive the impulse. So at the end of the neurons, the axon terminals, there are some vesicles which contains the neurotransmitters, and these neurotransmitters are chemical substances which are released into the minute gap in between these two neurons. the presynaptic neuron and the postsynaptic neuron. So when these vesicles are released or the neurotransmitters are released, then the nerve impulse can be easily passed from the presynaptic neuron to the postsynaptic neuron. Here they are showing that a vesicle is released from a presynaptic neuron into the gap present between these two neurons, which is called as the synapse. So this synapse, it when received those chemical messengers or those chemical substances which are called as the neurotransmitters, so then the presynaptic neuron is able to transmit its impulse into the postsynaptic neuron. Other than that, the impulse cannot be passed from one neuron to other. Thank you.